So Dak Prescott with 34,378 yards is now the all-time leading Dallas Cowboy in passing yards. Welcome to Just the Stats, NFL Top 10's for Tuesday. All right, we had a Monday night game. It was okay game. San Francisco initially seemed to do their best to try to not win the game, but we'll talk about that game in a little bit. Before we do that, we want to finish the Sunday games. We had some really good games on Sunday. We already talked about a couple of them, but a lot of overtime games. Really, it was a fun day to watch some football. I'm hoping for the same come Thursday when we have 3 games on Thursday and a game on Friday as well. So that'll be entertaining for Thanksgiving. Now, when we look at these games, we'll be looking at some of the top 10s for the teams. At the end, I'll try to throw in a couple of passing top 10 games for the season. See what games from last week were able to produce performances that finished in the top 10 for the entire season on a game status. And there were a couple. As usual, well, not always, but it's just quarterback, so one's positive and the other one's not positive if you're that player. But we'll get us started with a game where there really were no top 10s in this game. That was the Browns versus the Raiders. The Cleveland Browns, playing in Las Vegas, won the game 24-10. Now, this was 2 teams. Both were 2-8 going into it, so somebody had to win. Cleveland really dominated this game. The Raiders, holy cow, their offensive line, Ashton Genty, the fact that he can get any yards is simply amazing. Geno Smith, his numbers don't look too bad. 30 for 44 for 285 yards and a touchdown. They don't look bad until you look at the sacks. And when you see the sacks, he was sacked 10 times for 77 yards. That's horrific. Ashton Genty, 17 carries for 50 yards, so nothing much there. Now, they have been using him more as a receiver, so he did rack up even more yards receiving, 8 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. So he did have over 100 yards before he left the game. He had an ankle issue. We'll see how bad that is. But he's not looking great. But when you're talking about a line like that, the line was so bad. The Raiders fired their offensive coach, Chip Kelly, and so he's taking the blame right now. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. I just don't see Carroll being there after this year. Now for Cleveland, Shadir Sanders, 11 completions on only 20 attempts for 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Only sacked once. They weren't that great. They only rushed for 64 yards total, 16 carries by Judkins for 47 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns, though, so that really, if you're into fantasy football, that made a big difference for him. No catches for him, so pretty much strictly ran the ball. They ran the ball 27 times for only 64 yards, barely over 2 yards a pop, but that's all you needed to do against the Raiders. There's not much, you don't have much fear of them scoring a lot of points. Their offensive line has just continued to deteriorate. Now for Cleveland, it was their defense. Wow. Myles Garrett had 5 total tackles, but 4 for a loss, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks in this game. Isaiah McGuire, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Malik Collins, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. This is what it was like. It was just impressive. Their defense has been incredible and racked up a ton of sacks in this game. But other than that, that's it. Browns win this game. Next game up is the Atlanta Falcons versus the New Orleans Saints. Again, 2 teams with losing records, but Atlanta still has a chance, an outside chance, to make the playoffs. So they win this game 24-10. Again, another game where Atlanta didn't have to do much from a quarterback position. They were winning 16-7 at halftime and just kind of carried that into a 24-10 win. For New Orleans, Tyler Shaw threw the ball 43 times, 30 completions, 243 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and was sacked 5 times in this game. And then for Atlanta, Kirk Cousins just put up enough to win, put it that way. 16 completions on 23 attempts, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And he was sacked 3 times. Now, Robinson had a decent game, 14 carries for 70 yards, no touchdowns. And he also had 2 catches for 37 yards. So he had over 100 yards in scrimmage, no touchdowns, though. Darnell Mooney for Atlanta finally showed up. He's just been a no-show on this team, and they really needed him to step up with London out. But Mooney had 3 catches on 3 targets. That's all he was targeted, but 74 yards and a touchdown for him. That was really not much. Unfortunately for the Saints, Alvin Kamara got hurt. He looks like he's going to miss a week or 2, maybe even more. And with a season of 2-9, there's obviously going to be no hurry to bring him back. This season's kind of a wash for them. Chris Olave, who's been trying to play well, 9 receptions for 70 yards. So that was good, but only 70 yards. Just not a good game for them. Now for Atlanta, again, there was only one top 10 in this game, and that was Tyler Algier, second running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Tyler Algier had 12 carries for 44 yards. Now, he only needed 20 yards to move into 10th place, to get into the top 10. He was able to get the 20 yards plus another 22, so 24, that is. So he now has 2,686 yards to move into 10th place all time for the Atlanta Falcons. And right now he's right behind. The next one up for him would be Bijan Robinson. So they are now number 9 and 10 for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, next game up, this was game a little more interesting than the previous 2. Actually, probably a lot more, to be honest. And what a flip-flop game it was. It was the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys, a game that looked like the Eagles were going to walk away with. Halftime, it's 21-7. That's it for Philadelphia. After halftime, they could not score. And Dallas was able to rack up another 17 points. They win the game 24-21. Wow. I mean, that was quite a comeback. And for Dallas, obviously, they needed it. They are now at 500, 5-5-1. They are not out of the playoff picture. I mean, it's not going to be easy for them, but definitely needed to beat the Eagles in this game. Now, in the game for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott put up some good numbers, 23 for 36, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Javonte Williams continues to run well, 20 carries for 87 yards, so over 4 yards a carry. Really, he's been pretty good for them. Also had a couple of catches for 14 yards, so he had 101 yards in this game, so over 100 yards of offense out of Javonte Williams. But the big guy was George Pickens. CeeDee Lamb had a couple of drops. I mean, he was targeted more than Pickens, but he only had 4 catches, 75 yards on 11 targets. George Pickens, 9 catches on 9 targets for 146 yards and a touchdown. You know, they're definitely a contender, and you got Jake Ferguson at tight end, 5 for 60. But with those 3 players and a decent running game in Williams, their offense is looking good. And if they can do anything on defense, they have a chance, to continue to move forward and make the playoffs. Now for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 27 for 39, 289 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. So he has been moving forward. And we'll look at some of his numbers as well as Prescott for these two quarterbacks as far as all-time for their teams. Now, in this game, man, Saquon Barkley, 10 carries, 22 yards. I don't know. He had 7 catches for 52 yards, so he didn't do bad there. But, I mean, when I watch this game, he catches a pass and he kind of runs to the sideline and he runs out of bounds. No attempt to even be touched by a defender. I mean, they would have stopped him. They were there, but no effort to even put a shoulder into him, get an extra couple of yards. He just ran out well before. I don't know. I don't know what's up with him. He just isn't, to me, the same player that he was last year, and I really don't know why. It's kind of like him and Lamar Jackson. Now, Jackson has been kind of hurt, banged up, and that could be the problem there, but he hasn't looked the same either this year. Now, it was A.J. Brown. I was going to say A.J. Brown for the Eagles, big receiver there, 8 receptions on 10 targets, 110 yards and a touchdown for him. And Devontae Smith, 6 catches, 89 yards. So top guys there produced for their team. But Jalen Hurts was the quarterback who scored all the touchdowns, whether he threw it or ran them in himself. All right, now looking at some top 10s here. Start with the Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. He needed 149 yards to move into 4th place all time for the Eagles in passing yards. Well, he got 289, so he's now in 4th. He passed Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts has almost 17,000 yards now in passing. He's got 16,951. Now, next up for him, which will be at the earliest next year, you have to have a big season to do it, depending on how he finishes out this year, but it's Randall Cunningham, who played from 85 to 95. He was another running quarterback. They had some good running quarterbacks. He was one of the first who was kind of famous for the running aspect of his game, but for the Eagles, he ended up with 22,877 yards. So Jalen Hurts needs, well over 5,000 yards to catch him. So that's this, however many gets this season, plus a really, really good season next year. So we'll see if he can make it. Also in this game for Jalen Hurts, came into the game tied with Mike Quick for 7th for total touchdowns by a Philadelphia Eagle. Mike Quick played in the 80s. They both had 61 total touchdowns for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts racks up another 2. In this game, he's now got 63, which jumps him into a tie for 5th with Pete Pijos. They both have 63 now. Next up for Jalen Hurts is Tommy McDonald, who played from 57 to 63. He has 67. So he's on his way. Harold Carmichael's the leader with 79. I would say that Hurts is a lock for that at some point in his career, but we'll see for 2 reasons. One, if they do away with a tush push, that will hinder him on those 1-yard runs. I think they might reconsider that. We'll see. If he can't do it through the tush push, will he do it? Will they still try to use him or use a running back? We'll see. But secondly, I don't know about the rumors and if they're true, and I don't know his contract situation with Jalen Hurts. I'm sure he's the quarterback for the Eagles for the future, but if he's not because of his attitude, then that could stymie him from reaching Harold Carmichael, but we'll see. But right now, he's definitely on a pace to easily pass Harold Carmichael. Not this year, but maybe next year. Now, for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott came into the game only needing 159 yards of passing to move into first place all time for the Dallas Cowboys in passing yards. Well, he got 354. So Dak Prescott with 34,378 yards is now the all-time leading Dallas Cowboy in passing yards. He passed Tony Romo, who had been in first, passed him, and now he's sole possession of first place in passing yards for the Dallas Cowboys. So good for him. He's had such a topsy-turvy year, questioning his abilities and so forth. But he's hung in there. He's really had a good season. His seasons have been 2 years ago, he had a really good season. Last year, it wasn't impressive. Was it him? Was it the line? Lack of players? It's a lot of factors, I guess. All right. Let's go to another game, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Los Angeles Rams. Well, this game had, for lack of excitement, because the Rams beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers easily, 34-7. And I tell you what, Matthew Stafford's looking like MVP. He'll get a run from Smith Najigba for the Seattle Seahawks, but right now Stafford's on such a pace of his own as far as throwing touchdown passes. This game had a lot of top 10s in it, not only just individual players, for their team, but also Stafford for the NFL, which you wish he didn't have. But this game really was just all the Rams. Their defense was impressive. Baker Mayfield got hurt early, and he had already had a rough game. His shoulder was really damaged, not even throwing shoulder, and he tried to tough it out, but he didn't make it back in the second half at all. Teddy Bridgewater filled in. But Baker Mayfield, which was enough yards, but he only had 9 completions on 19 attempts for 41 yards, had 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions. So just a bad game for him. They definitely need Bucky Irving back, and they need some help from Emeka Egbuka. Their offense just needs another receiver. Chris Godwin, first game back, but only 2 catches for 9 yards. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 25 completions on 35 attempts, 273 yards, and another 3 touchdowns. It's getting to be average for him to 3 touchdowns. And, of course, if he's throwing 3 touchdowns, Davante Adams had to have 1, but he did actually have 2. 5 catches, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You just know when they're down there in the red zone, Davante Adams, he's going to throw it to him once, for sure. And he was so impressive. Just watching him run his routes is incredible. So big game for the Rams. They are now 9-2. And with the Eagles losing, they're the number 1 team in the NFC now. Tampa Bay Buccaneers still hanging on to first, and we'll look at the standings, though they have dropped now 6-5. They really are looking to get some players back. Now in this game, Baker Mayfield, like I said, he only had 41 yards passing, but he only needed 31 to move into 7th place. So he now has 10,950 yards passing. He passed Brad Johnson, who was in 7th. So now he is sole possession of Baker Mayfield is of 7th place. Next up for him, and see how he's doing, but is Doug Williams. Super Bowl winner Doug Williams played 78-82, had 12,648. So he needs less than 2,000 yards this season. Can he get that before the end of the year? We'll see. But Baker Mayfield now 7th place in the passing yards. Now in a negative, because he threw those 2 interceptions, he moved into a tie for 9th place in interceptions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who came in at 10th for the team with 29. He got 2 more. He's now got 31, which ties him with Greg Erickson, who played from 92 to 94. They both have 31 interceptions. Next up for him, the great Tom Brady, who had 33 interceptions while with his time with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he'll probably get there and catch him. That'll be it for him as far as that goes. But right now, Baker Mayfield tied for 9th place in that category. Now, for the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford, passing touchdowns for the Los Angeles Rams was tied with Mark Bulger for third place. Mark Bulger played from 2002 to 2009. They both had 122 touchdown passes. Matthew Stafford with 3 more now has 125. So he's in sole possession of third. Next up for him is Jim Everett, who played from 86 to 93. He's got 142, so I don't see Matthew Stafford catching him this year. And if he plays next year, he definitely has a chance to move into first place. Roman Gabriel has 154, but, I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to play next year. But if he does, he sure has a chance to. Interestingly enough, I don't know how many quarterbacks can say this. I don't think any can say it, but he could be the all-time leader in passing touchdowns for the Rams and the Lions. That would be a first, I believe. All right, now looking at the Rams, we'll continue with the Rams. With that touchdown pass, like I said, he's now in third, but let me move on to sacks. That's what I wanted to get to. So he was sacked only one time, but that one sack was good enough to tie him with Tony Banks for fourth place in sacks for the Los Angeles Rams. They both now have 132. And that's probably as far as he'll get. Jim Everett's third with 186. So he would need another 54, and that's not going to happen even if he plays next year. He'd have to play years to reach that number. But he is in fourth now, tied for fourth. Probably will get fourth by himself at some point. He had passed Jared Goff a week or two ago, and now he's in fourth place. Now, that one sack was good enough to take him out of a place all-time in quarterback sacks. He was tied with John Elway with 516 sacks. They were tied for seventh. Matthew Stafford is now in seventh place all-time with 517 sacks. Next up for him is Brett Favre with 525. I don't know if he'll reach that or not. That's 8 more, and being the fact that he was only sacked once, he's not been sacked that many times, so he may or may not. We'll watch that one. Now, Russell Wilson, he did get in the game one time this season, or when he was he was able to tie Fran Tarkenton, and they both have 570 sacks. And Aaron Rodgers continues he didn't have any sacks because he didn't play last week, but he leads the NFL with 590 all time, that is. All right, those are all the stats. A lot of stats from that game. And Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams, who we'll be looking at, I'm sure, on NFL all-time numbers, we'll look at them again as they continue to rack up the touchdowns. Now, last game was last night. And, that game, hoping for more. The 49ers just were too much, despite the fact that Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. That really kept them in the game, but Bryce Young kept giving it back. He gave it back twice himself. Neither quarterback had a good game. And then what hurt Carolina even more was 2 of their defensive backs went out in the game. And that really hurt them as far as trying to stay in the game. I mean, J.C. Horn had 2 interceptions himself, and he goes out of the game. That really hurt. But they hung in there. At halftime, it was 10-3. They hadn't scored yet. They finally did get a touchdown, but it wasn't enough. San Francisco just ran the ball. Christian McCaffrey, not good numbers. He carried the ball a lot, 24 carries for 89 yards. So, 3 yards a carry. He did have a touchdown. He also had 7 catches for 53 yards. So another game where he racks up a lot of yards, 142 yards of offense for him. He's the third person in this 3 people as far as MVPs for me right now. I had Jonathan Taylor in there, but he did not have a good game. He kind of just dropped out of this right now. Now, like I said, Purdy was 23 for 32, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And for Carolina, nobody really had any kind of a good game. They didn't run the ball. They weren't out of this game, but they did not run the ball. They kept throwing it, and Bryce Young would throw interceptions. They ran the ball 13 times, and 4 of those were by Bryce Young. So they weren't intentional runs. I mean, you got Rico Dowdle and Hubbard. Rico Dowdle, 6 carries, 38 yards. What is that? I mean, he could have ran it twice as many times. They were not out of this game, and after the first half, and they could have stuck with the run game, I think, and had a better chance to try to win this game, but they didn't. All right. Big receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, George Kittle, 6 catches for 78 yards. Now, talking about the 49ers on the all-time top 10 lists. First of all, Brock Purdy needed 1 touchdown pass to tie Colin Kaepernick for 9th place. He got that. So they both now have 72 touchdown passes. So Brock Purdy now with 72 along with Colin Kaepernick. Next up for both, well, not for both of them, for Brock Purdy is Alex Smith, who played for the 49ers from 2005 to 2012. He has 81. So 9 more touchdown passes. Will he get there? I don't know. He's really got to now, I know he was out some, but some of these passes he made were, wow, he was not seeing the defender at all. And like Horn just jumped right in there and had the interception wasn't even a tough catch for him. But he could make more he could move up to 8th at some point. We'll see. Now, McCaffrey, with this one rushing touchdown he was tied for 9th place with Garrison Hurst. With 1 more touchdown rushing, he's now tied with Frankie Albert, who played from 1946 to 1952. They both now have 27 rushing touchdowns. So now he is in 8th place. Christian McCaffrey's tied for 8th. Next up in 7th place is another old-timer, Hugh McElhenney, 1952 to 1960. So not quite as far back, but a ways back. He's got 35. So McCaffrey would need 8 more rushing touchdowns. I don't see that happening. Not likely. Not that it's impossible for McCaffrey, but I don't see it probably happening. All right. I'll be interested to see McCaffrey, Stafford, and Devontae Adams in their NFL numbers for next week. All right. We'll take a quick look at a couple of season leaders in passing yards and in sacks, and then we'll call it a wrap. But Jameson Winston fills in for Dart for the Giants, and in a loss, he puts up 366 yards, which was good enough to finish 10th as the 10th best passing game this season so far. He really looked good. Not only did he have a couple of touchdown passes, he caught a pass for a touchdown, shook off the defender and ran in for the touchdown. Did have an interception, but he's so fun to watch. And unfortunately, what just wasn't quite good enough for the Giants to win the game. Now, one more stat as another player, 2 players actually, from week 12 that were able to make it into the top 10, and that's in being sacked. Josh Allen on Thursday was sacked 8 times, which was good enough for 3rd place so far this season as most times a quarterback's been sacked. 8 times. I mean, he just had a rough game there. And I thought that game was rough, but then here comes Geno Smith for the Raiders. He decides to top the list with 10 sacks. He was sacked 10 times by the Browns. That's the most times a quarterback's been sacked in a game this season. So 2 top 10s games this season all were last week. Geno Smith and Josh Allen. So bad games for them. Both teams lost. Josh Allen and the Bills, that game was closer, but Geno Smith, that game was not close. All right, that is a wrap for those games, for the Sunday and Monday games. Tomorrow, we will look at some of the top 10 players this season, see how they're doing. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Matthew Stafford, McCaffrey, see where they stand now this season and all time as they move forward with some good numbers. And we'll look at that. We'll also look at the standings. Been a lot of changes and interesting dynamics going on here with the playoffs as they start to get closer. We're into week 13 coming up. And so positioning for the playoffs is becoming more and more critical for a lot of teams. So we'll look at that as well. Appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe to this. You can find it on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL. Also, of course, on any podcast app you use, whether it's associated with Apple or Spotify or however you get your podcasting. And if you are watching it on Just the Stats NFL on YouTube, you can see all these charts I've got, the top 10s. You know, obviously I don't read all the players on there, but you can see them if you want to look at those while you watch the video, so you can see the different charts, see the scores from the games, that kind of thing. They're all up there, so you don't have to just look at me as I talk. All right, again, thanks for listening. And that is a wrap for NFL Top 10s for Tuesday. I'm out till tomorrow.